My name is Adrienne, for the viewers that are watching, and I work for Maison Ferrand. I represent the entire portfolio for on-premise. So I'm working with cognac and gin, but this seminar is specifically about rum. So rum is a really beautiful spirit. It's made literally everywhere in the world. And as someone who's spent her entire adult life working in spirits, I first as a bartender, now working directly for the Maison Ferrand supplier, I've been given a really privileged access to an in-depth education on rum. And what I've noticed in rum is that oftentimes we focus on the production value after distillation, and we'll wax poetic about aging, and we'll talk about the art of blending and the pretty packaging and, of course, the creativity of craft cocktails. But we oftentimes forget about the source material. So today I wanted to shine a little light on the stages of rum from its source. And I've gathered some really tremendous experts here that have been so generous with their time. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. And we're going to talk a little bit about this business of rum. So we're going to talk about, molasses sourcing, purchase, bulk sales, market value. We're going to talk about certification. We have Bonsource present. We have some producers present, and we're just going to get into the fascinating world of the business of rum and the side that we don't typically get to see very often. So without further ado, my first panelist, I'm just going to go through introductions, and my first panelist is an amazing, brilliant, talented woman. This is Martha Miller, the CEO of the NRJ, making some of the finest rums in the world. And Martha, thank you so much for being here. I'm blushing. But Martha, could you tell us a little bit about your role as the first CEO of the NRJ in Jamaica and get us excited about your rum?
Oh, thank you, Adrienne. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to join this quite prestigious panel, being the newcomer on the block. What can I say about national rums and being appointed? It is indeed a privilege for me to be the first CEO. I don't think I'm accustomed to it yet. Definitely, I'm not accustomed to it, but it is definitely a privilege. And I mean, it's exciting. I have an amazing team that supports me. Don, on the other end, he gets calls from myself or my team members all the time. It really is a team effort that gets us going. Whether it be my West Indies rum partners or my DDL partners, I really do have an amazing support team that really makes the job nothing but fun. Absolutely enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you
so yeah. So who is National Rums? Some people might ask, okay, so who's National Rums? For those of you who don't know National Rums, anything to make it easy for you. If you know Myers Rum, everything that comes out of Myers Rum comes out of my distillery. If you know Jamaica Plantation Jamaica, that's my rum. If you know Captain Morgan Black, that's my rum. I think that makes it easy for you to understand. And of course, how much smaller but growing brand Money Musk. Some of you might have seen it. I know it's distributed in the EU, and it's also distributed in the United States. We're in about 20 countries in the EU and about 20 states, roughly about 20 states, and growing. And any of those products, that's National Rums of Jamaica. So we have two distilleries. We have the Long Pond Distillery, and that is our jewel in the rum world. So we're the proud owners of that distillery. And we also have the world-renowned Clarendon Distillery, or some people call it the Money Musk Distillery. Those are two distilleries in our portfolio. We are owned 1/3 by Demerara Distillers and 1/3 by West Indies Rum and 1/3 by the government of Jamaica. So we're proud to say that we are owned, we're part of the Jamaican heritage, and we continue to be owned by the people of Jamaica. A third owned by the people of Jamaica. We were previously owned 100% by the government. In 2006, we needed to do, as everybody else did, we needed some upgrades. And the government went looking for help and found help in West Indies Rum and DDL, who were willing to partner with us in upgrading our distillery at Clarendon. We got a brand new column still and a brand new pot still, which are today continuing to help us to produce some of the most beautiful rums that are produced in the world. So that's in a nutshell who National Rums is.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Sticking with producer point of view, let's go over to Don Benn. Don Benn is a seasoned veteran, over 20 years working for the West Indies Rum Distillery. He's the operations manager and master distiller. He's also a former squash player for the national Barbados team and the road tennis champion for the distillery. Just a great talent and resource for the distillery and for myself as well. I consider Don a friend, and he's always been really happy to answer my seemingly endless questions. So Don, thank you for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do over at West Indies?
Hi, Adrienne, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this call. Hi, Miguel, Martha, and Orlando as well. Happy to be on board with you, and hopefully we can put together a wonderful session to educate people about the world of rum, the world of molasses, things they may not have insights to previously, and hopefully they leave this session asking for more, because I'm not sure we'll have enough time really to get to the aspects, but we'll try our best. Well, as Adrienne said, at West Indies Rum, I've been here just over 20 years. I'll leave out the parts about the road tennis and the squash. That seems to be a distant memory for me. So my daily activities really is to be part of a team, a wonderful team of about 80 persons. We're here in Barbados on the beach, and we make wonderful Barbados rum every day. That's our passion, that's our goal. And along with that, we want to do it obviously in a very responsible, sustainable way. We need to respect the environment. We need to respect our employees. We need to respect the communities that we're in. So I think during this call, a lot more of that will come out in terms of what work we're doing, how we can demonstrate that, and what the future holds for West Indies Rum. Of course, we may be well known as the home of States Rum and Plantation Rum. And we are also, as Martha said, proud partners with DDL and the government of Jamaica with NRJ. So we see that group as our family. And Martha, you can continue to ask questions. You know, I'm always happy to be there to help you. And as I said, during the call, a lot more information about West Indies Rum and myself will come out. But at this stage, I'll hand it back over to you.
The next on the list of introductions is someone also from Barbados, specifically in the sugar and molasses industry and agriculture. So Orlanda Atherley is the CEO of the Barbados Agriculture Management Company. With over 15 years of leadership and consulting in agriculture sectors, he is considered a forerunner of sustainability and pushing in new successes for the BAMC and Barbados as a whole. So thank you so much for being here. It says here that you have 5 daughters. You're very lucky. I come from a big family that is mostly women. So congratulations. You're going to do well. Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about the BAMC? Because I think, you know, for on-trade community and rum people and, you know, for Tales of the Cocktail community, we're focused with on-trade. We don't really get to see or talk to people so much in the agricultural sector.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Hi, good to see you again, Don. Nice to meet you, Martha, and good to see you again, Miguel. BAMC is a state-owned entity. It is the forerunner, and a lot of people might not know, but it is the forerunner to the private sector who used to manage the sugar industry years ago. So it's just been a continuation of the traditional industry where the plantation owners had run the industry for years, and obviously due to some challenges, they have government took up the the running of the sugar industry. Where we are at now is obviously BMC has been transitioning over the last 2 years into a value-added industry that is looking at the value of molasses to the industry and making the connection. Obviously, work we've done before, we've done some trials on raw juice. So we're kind of looking at innovations, not only in terms of the expansion of product, but also on the sustainability of sugarcane production, which is a really big issue for us. The focus to move forward now is on yield, and that includes how do we manage the lands sustainable in a sustainable way and dealing with climate change, which we've been seeing the effects over the last 2 or 3 years. So it's kind of a challenging time for the industry, but also very exciting in the direction that we're headed. And the team that I work with in trying to build out that sustainability and obviously move the industry to a point where it can be privatized. So that's a bit about BMC.
Thank you so much. I want to get into, climate change. We're going to talk about what sustainability looks like for sugar production. Last on the introductions, but not least, we have Miguel Hernandez, who is the Regional Director of Latin America for Bonsource. And he's going to tell you a little bit about that, but he's a sustainable agriculture expert, and he's contributing to the economic growth and social well-being of Latin America. So thank you so much, Miguel. I know we've met before, and you also have been very generous with and transparent with all of my seemingly endless questions and requests. So thank you again for showing up today. But can you tell us a little bit about what Bonsource is for people who aren't familiar with the organization?
Thank you, Adrienne, for this invitation and to join this great panel. I'm looking forward to see the first certified rum in the near future. And greetings from Argentina. Bonsource is a global platform. We have more than 300 members in around 50 countries. And collectively, we are promoting the sustainability of sugarcane and the use of derivatives like ethanol, molasses, and sugar. We have the global sustainability standard, which is the first option now used by brands and the not only brands, food and beverage companies and the biofuel sector to certify sugarcane. And our standard is very strict in terms of human rights, social issues, and environmental issues. And I can explain later about how the standard works.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you so much. We talk about these certification processes, and it's a nonprofit, but the standards are, as you mentioned, they're bigger organizations. They're bigger, and it's layered as well. But I guess let's just get right into it. I had some questions for Miguel because I think rum, because we don't often think about sugar and its role in rum in a very direct way. We think about it as like, it's processed and maybe it's cut and then it just, voila, it ends up at the distillery. How is the process of certification? And I know it can be really laborious and it takes quite a bit of time for both sugar mills and distilleries to get certified. And I think rum now is kind of taking the shift and looking at certification in a way that maybe they weren't a couple of years ago. So can you tell us a little bit about what steps are taken in a certification process for any member of Bonsource or like future member?
Sure. Our certification system has the following elements. We have a production standard applicable to any size of farm and also to any size of mills or distillery. The chain of custody standard is for the traceability of certified products, sugar, ethanol, molasses, and bagasse. It's any product and bioplastic. And the Bonsource calculator. All together is what we call the certification system. This system is applicable to farms, mills, and buyers looking for certified products. And it is a metric system. The standard has several principles and criteria. And what you need to do is to record your activities at agricultural and industrial level It's about water management, labor contract, agrochemical use, GAG, energy, all those kind of information. And you fill in the calculator with this information. And in order to achieve the certification, the minimum is 80%. And in order to get to a higher rate, you need to work on improvement. So you can work in the coming years. The certificate has a validity of 3 years. And we recertification audit every year. So every year you need to improve the process because the Bonsucro standard is about continuous improvement. And as I mentioned before, in association, we have different members category. We have farm, mills, distilleries, buyers, NGOs. The certification system is applicable to members. Membership is a precondition to achieve the certification. It's applicable to farm, mills, distillers, and buyers. This is the cycle of sustainability and where we apply the Bonsucro standard and certification system.
Yeah, the audit is really important. And I know that the pandemic has kind of put a freeze on audits because they're in person, and that's kind of lengthened some members' journey into certification. As Don, would you like to speak to like your process working with certification or working with Bonsucro specifically and kind of what that looks like? I think what people might not really understand is things that would have to be changed. Like, what is the financial commitment and the value add for final consumers and to get certified?
Well, I mean, that's a very broad range for a question. Take it piece by piece along the way. So our journey officially started when we became members of Bonsucro in 2020. But that's just being a member. We still had to demonstrate our commitment through becoming certified. And we started that journey late last year, 2020, and we were successful in achieving the certification by, say, mid-2021. So we were able to review our system, perform internal audits, develop the correct procedures and protocols to demonstrate what we are committed to. So it looks at how we procure the molasses, it looks at the practices here at the distillery, and how we also can trace how we utilize that molasses and demonstrate that the products that we are manufacturing, the rum, is linked all the way through to a certified product which has come from a certified stage prior to us. Now, how the system works, this is a chain of custody system. We have to confirm that the buyer, in our case, who is providing the molasses for us, that they can demonstrate that they are certified as well. It's their responsibility to keep that link, that chain going further up. So they have to then, if they're getting it from a mill, confirm with the mill that the mill is certified. So it relieves us as a distillery of the responsibility of having to check every stage of the system all the way back through to the farm. But it ensures that there's a link, a strong link coming through from the field all the way through to the mill, to the buyers, to the users of the raw material, all the way then through to the end products that you can put onto the shelf. So the consumer should be confident once they see that product and it is identified that the players or the components within that chain all committed to protecting and respecting the environment, the labor, the entire sugarcane arena. So we wanted to show that to the world basically because obviously these are now times where consumers are becoming more and more educated. They're asking for more and more from your products. They no longer just want to see that your product is beautifully packaged and it's of high quality. Is it sustainable? Are they drinking or eating something that is damaging the environment in some other part of the world, or that is disrespecting the labor in some other part of the world? And if we cannot answer that with any confidence, we are pretty sure our consumers will drift away to other things. So it also demonstrates our commitment to this. It's not just to be part of a business end. We we know we are committed to protecting the environment and protecting our staff. And we are just happy to be able to demonstrate that through our certification. And I think we are the first Caribbean distillery that has become certified, if I'm correct in that indication. And we're proud to say that. Now, obviously, as Miguel said, it's about continuous improvement. So we're not going to leave it there. We have to continue to demonstrate that we can update our systems, we can engage with our staff, we can engage with the communities in Barbados, and we can also work with our vendors to be sure that they in turn are doing the same thing to keep that chain as strong as possible. Now, if I didn't answer some of your questions, just remind me so I can fill in the blanks again.
That's great. It was, you're right. It was a broad, it was a lot for one person. But I think there are pieces that everyone can contribute to this puzzle. I would love to ask Martha kind of similar questions, and to both producers present. How do you decide, I mean, even outside of Bonsucro or outside of certification, how do you choose molasses? What does this process look like? And in getting brokers of molasses, how do you vet those brokers, or do you have direct relationships? I know in Jamaica, they have some direct relationships with the sugar mill themselves. So how does that process work?
So I think this question is this whole seminar and this topic is so timely because molasses has recently become such a topic in the industry in Jamaica, with so many things happening with molasses. So in 10 years ago, we probably purchased 50% of our molasses we would import. Today, with the closure of so many sugar factories, we're down from 6 to 2 sugar factories. We now have about just shy of 30% of our molasses we actually get locally. So most of our molasses, we have a great relationship with EDF Man and UM Molasses, and they are our prime partners in molasses partnership, in purchasing of molasses. We locally, there are the two sugar mills would be the Worthy Park Sugar Mill and the Frome Sugar Mill. Those are two partners that we have. We are currently under, as everyone else is, the matter of social sustainability is topical for all our suppliers. So we're now being pushed we are now seeking to do things like Bonsucro certification on our side. That's on our agenda. Congratulations, Don. I didn't realize you had completed your certification or your recognition. I'm not sure which one it is, if you're Bonsucro certified or Bonsucro recognized. But congratulations on that. That's a major, major achievement. You've now just made us have to up the ante. And in 2022, I'd love to be saying that we are Bonsucro certified. But that's a major achievement. But I think we now need to look down the road at getting more of those certifications and pushing to look at what is really happening with our partners. Not just looking at what's happening as it is with Bonsucro. You need to look at what's happening down the pipeline with your suppliers. And I think that is an important area of the business that we are becoming more focused on in Jamaica. Not as advanced as done yet, but 2022, look for us, we'll be there too.
Yeah, and accepting that the process, when looking at certification options, that process is lengthy and it's not something that happens overnight. It's not a matter of just like paying for a rubber stamp, because to change systems and to kind of update systems all the way down the supply chain, even especially if you're working with smaller farmers, a smaller farm isn't going to have the same access to just, overnight, like change everything to meet the standards necessary to get certified.
Right. So the one that we are currently seeking certification for is the BSCI because of the Nordic influence. A lot of our customers supply rum, are customers of the Nordic or suppliers of rum to the Nordic region. So we're now under pressure to be Nordic, BSCI certified. So we're working through that process. It's an interesting process. It really is a challenging process. It requires us to keep our suppliers accountable and for them to look after their employees and to protect everyone. Chronic kidney disease is a reality, and we need to ensure that we don't get caught in that quagmire and we are looking after our
Chronic
supply.
disease for people who haven't, there's plenty of literature on it, so we don't have to dive into that, but protecting specifically the health of your employees. What are the Bonsucro standards? Is it like, I mean, for folks watching, is it the ILO? Is it EU standards? And then I would ask the same to Orlanda, like with sugar mills in Barbados. I saw that they just inherited, or not inherited, that's not the right word, but were gifted a harvester for sugarcane, and what a tremendous resource that is for the island and for agriculture sector in Barbados. But just speaking a little bit to how both Barbados sugar mills and sugar like farms go about protecting their workers, and in the same breath, like what is the Bonsucro standard officially for labor?
Well, we are governed in Barbados by the Health and Safety Act, which has been put in place, I think, a number of years ago. What also happens is that our stakeholder unions, the unions, as part of the Health and Safety Act, we're required to have health and safety committees right across the system, from farm to factory production, and these committees are selected independently of management, so that there's some independence. And then we also have audits by the Labor Department. So in terms of key for us is the protection of our employees. So we obviously then go above and beyond the call of what is the required standard or the required minimum to make sure that both our farm workers, in terms of having the appropriate PPE, safety equipment, both at the level of the farm and at the level of the factories, and making sure that we have the required audits, ongoing audits. At the factory level, we're also governed by HACCP certification, which is an annual audit process that we go through to make sure that our packaging facility and actually the whole production process is HACCP certified. It is interesting because I've had a conversation with Miguel coming out of a similar conversation with West Indies Rum about the whole question of Bonsucro, looking at the Bonsucro certification. So we've had the introduction to Bonsucro, and it is something that we see as a real value added in terms of both positioning our sugar, both domestically and regionally and internationally. So for us, it is the health and safety standard, but also us going beyond what we consider the minimum standards according to the Act, and obviously making sure that we protect our workers.
Yeah, and I think, it's worth pointing out that Barbados sugar is famous worldwide, and having the cane breeding station on the island is just such a resource that I think is just kind of a secret outside of the island. Like, a lot of people aren't aware of what's going down there.
Well, there are two secrets actually, and they reside side by side. There's the cane breeding station, interestingly enough, who would produce what we call fuzz, or produce, for want of a better word, the seedlings. But we also have a research unit within the BAMC that we actually take a number of varieties through the stages to move from seedlings or seedlings to commercialization, which I think can take beyond 6 years. So interesting enough, both our research unit and the cane breeding station are next door to each other.
Wow, that's really cool. I was gifted a book from the distillery, from the cane breeding station, which is not for public consumption. It's not a book, I know it's not in general publication, so I'm really happy to have access to that knowledge. Just another privilege of working for this company. Miguel, did you have anything to add about specifically Bonsucro's, how they what is the standard for labor when they're doing audits of farmers, sugar, etc.?
Sure. I only explain how the certification system works, but it's important to explain a little bit more how the organization worked. As a global organization, we have the certification system. I explained before how it works, how it's implemented, but we also promote the cooperation between members because we know that implementing Bonsucro is a journey. First, you need to understand how the certification system works. So we organize events, trainings, conference call now that we are remote to explain to members and potential members how the system works. And we also encourage buyers and producers to work together, develop an impact project so they can work together on that journey, implementing Bonsucro. As I mentioned before, the system is very strict, but it's not impossible. Because what we did as an organization, we put together international protocol, best practices into one system. As an example, speaking of the social side of the standard, we have in the standard at least 8 international labor organizations in the main convention. So for instance, zero child labor, or what was explained before about the provision of personal protection equipment. Also, the operator needs to assess the risk and mitigate those risks, provide water to the workers. So all this together, and also respecting the law, which is the foundation of sustainability. All this together is the way you can address social issues, and environmental issues is also another. We have a lot of indicators in the standard. But the thing is, there is not a time frame written in stone. If you want to implement Bonsucro and you are not a member, you can work with us. We can share with you all the information, invite you to all the events. And it is up to you to set this timeline, whether it is 1 year, 2 years, 6 years. It's up to you and the operation and the level of investment, because Bonsucro is very versatile. We have in the standard 5 principles, and you can select indicators from those different principles and improve your operation and take your time doing gap assessment, putting the information again on the calculator, checking with us. That's why we have staff allocated in different regions. We have a Latin American team supporting members and non-members and stakeholders in Latin America. We also do the same in Africa, Asia. So we are here to support. Important to mention that we are the owner of the system, but for transparency, we don't do the audit. We have 5 to 6 certification bodies. They are independent. They are the one to go to the distillery, farm, and mills to do the audit. So in summary, the process, we can work with you during the process, since you are a member and you want to start this journey. When you are ready, you can call the certification body, do the audit, and we are there to support you to avoid any conflict of interest. That's the idea. Bonsucro is about cooperation. Bonsucro is about a journey, and that is where we are in this network, connecting the dots.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for pointing that out, that the audits are independent of Bonsucro themselves, and that also that the Bonsucro audits, in particular with respect to labor, are also meant to protect workers that are not sometimes from the country that the sugar mill is, right? Like protecting workers that are not automatically protected in their own home of origin if they're migrant workers from a neighboring country, how their health is protected and their safety is protected. And also environment, because we forget, we're here to talk about rum and the sources of rum, but it's easy to forget that sugar is a much bigger economy, and that sugar is also used for other products, right? That we have biomass energy, and we have these other things that we can use sugarcane for. The rum is just like the tiny piece, but the important piece for an organization like Tales of the Cocktail, right? So just putting that all out there together. I did have a question to the producers again, and maybe Orlando as well, to talk about sourcing molasses and the grade of molasses. Like, how do we, there's kind of a lot of discussion in that world about running out of like the right grade of molasses, because the better that the sugar mills get and the more refined the equipment for sugar mills, maybe the less perfect or less ideal the molasses is. So could anybody want to speak to?
Yeah, let me jump in because obviously I'm at the producer side. Molasses is basically a core product of sugar refining, where you get the sugar, and I would call it a slurry, and obviously it's spun out in a centrifuge, and that's where you get the split between sugar. You get sugar and molasses as a byproduct. In our cases, if it takes us 10 tons of cane to make a ton of molasses, a ton of sugar, of that, probably you will, of the total tons, you'll probably get 5% to make a ton of molasses, right? So in other words, it's really a byproduct of sugar. It's a core product of sugar. What we have been trying to do here in Barbados, and Don can jump in when he's ready. Historically, we have produced a sea molasses, which is we take out all the sugar, obviously because you were getting a fairly decent price on the EU market. Over the years, since we've gone into the bulk market, you're now earning the price based on the mercantile rate, which averages sometimes like $400 a ton, which is not very profitable. What we have been doing here, in addition to providing the sea molasses, which we call final molasses, which is after you take out all the sugar, recently we have been experimenting with what we call a bee molasses. And it is interesting that we have been working with West Indies Rum, I think, done over the last 2-3 years. They're the major consumer of our bee molasses, which is a molasses where we leave in a bit more sugar, obviously, and added a bit more to the price. So I know from my own experience here and what we basically produce a C, but recently we have been toying with a different grade of molasses. Don?
Okay, thanks, Orlando. So, and just to keep that message that we are saying, it's all about sustainability. So
yeah,
we are working closely with the BAMC to be sure that there's a sustainable sugar industry within Barbados. Can we arrest the decline, work to build it again? Because I think Barbados has to diversify away a bit from tourism as the main or the primary earner of foreign exchange. Rum is a key player in that, but rum can't do it without a sugar industry. And for us, we don't want to be able to say, or we don't want to say, we are importing all of our needs of molasses. It's still more skewed to importation, but we really want to grow the local industry. So right now, all of the local molasses that we can obtain, that goes into the plantation brand and to States brands. And we are the majority user of the molasses, so we have continued to support Orlando and the AMC and whatever they're seeking to do. So as he said, sea molasses or the final molasses is typically what the rum distilleries in Barbados have worked with. And fortunately for us, I mean, Orlando, I'm saying this in the kindest possible way, the sugar mills in Barbados are not the most efficient in the world. They try their best, but obviously they do leave behind an amount of sugar that we can work with. And in doing so, we can get a very consistent type of alcohol manufactured, type of rum. Now, if you're going now from out of Barbados to bringing molasses into Barbados, it becomes a bit more uncertain. You have to be very careful what molasses you select, because it can have a detrimental impact on your process, both the quality of the rum and the efficiencies of your process, and even if you're able to operate, because some molasses can bring mineral salts that can cause scaling to develop. Now, Martha probably can also share and add of her experience there. But for us at the distillery, working with the BAMC now, we are tailoring what we do to match what they can provide to be able to support the sugar industry. So recently, we've done a lot more work into fermenting just juice alone, or fermenting juice blended with molasses, that's the final molasses, or even just juice blended with the bee molasses. It gives variations in your final product. So we're still working through some of those aspects to find that right mixture that allows us to continue what we do and support the sugar industry. But I'd have to say it's looking right now that the bee molasses that is being provided is still an excellent quality molasses for us to be able to provide the rums that people associate with the distillery. And it's important molasses because the sugars are not the only thing. It's about the mineral content and the nutritional content, the wild yeast that's present, the levels of bacteria, all of that goes together to give you a particular profile for your rums. And we're happy to say that so far what we've been able to get from the local industry is serving us very well, and we'll continue to work very closely to keep those rums going out to the consumers.
Martha, did you have anything to?
Yeah, let me add a little bit to what Don has said. The sustainability of the sugar industry in Jamaica has been a challenge. The government is really trying very hard at that, but at resurrecting that, but it has been a challenge, but they have not given up. In the meantime, what has National Rums done? National Rums, as Don has said, is a similar way. We've been looking at how can we utilize, grow the sugar or the sugar cane industry and utilize that in our product if we can't take it to the full extent of doing sugar. So we've been looking at blending the juice of the sugar cane with molasses. It does produce a slightly different product, but we're working through that and we're experimenting with that to see how we can help the community of Clarendon, in which we're based. We are the primary employer, one of the two primary employers of persons now in that area. And how do we expand the sugarcane industry to make life more sustainable for the workers in Clarendon? So we're working through that process. As I said, factories around the world are becoming a lot more efficient at extracting the sugar out of the molasses. So we have to find other ways to make our market sustainable, and those are some of the projects that we're working through.
The problem, and Orlando hinted about it, was the market value, right? Like getting the right market value price for your sugar and trying to stay competitive for that is probably a huge challenge with sugar being made all over the world, and the transportation of sugar and what that costs to get, sugar from West Indies to Europe and beyond is going to greatly affect the market. And beet sugar still is a thorn in the side. And tax, international trade agreements that make it harder on some countries and less on others is also a factor. And so it's a layered problem, and it's great that everyone is kind of thinking about it and trying to find ways to keep it sustainable and keep their agriculture industry alive.
Adrienne, sorry. You want to go ahead, Orlando?
Yeah, I think that's why, Ariane, we've taken the decision over the last 2 years to do a couple of things. One, we took a decision to exit the bulk sugar market. It was never profitable after the Lomé Convention. Then we took a decision to try to certainly increase the level of molasses that we were producing. That's why we ended up with a B. And obviously deepen the relationship between the rum industry, because obviously it has between 300 to 400 years of history. And we saw where the distilleries were accelerating their entrance or accelerating their growth in the premium space. So we took a conscious decision to head in that direction And the other decision that we've taken, we are currently looking at with the industry players is how then do we move into the space of cogeneration? Because Martha is quite right. Molasses and sugar production, because we only play into a small domestic market and some export, and our production has declined over the years, is how then do we enter that space of cogeneration and obviously create some sustainability that we can then reinvest back into the industry by paying the farmers on time, get them to increase the level of sugarcane, because obviously then they have certainty around being able to buy molasses, they have certainty around being able to pay for the fertilizers and stuff. Obviously, you know, it's a timing issue. And I think for them, what has been the challenge over the years is because the industry has been subsidized, like a lot of industries in the world, by government, and then government wants to get out of that space as well. I think what we are seeing and what we've been working on is a partnership both with West Indies Rum on the revenue side, on the molasses side, and then working with the farmers to try to increase the level of sugarcane production by not only increasing the land, increasing the acreage. Remembering that we're a small island, so the focus for us has been how do we look at the science and increase the use and make sure that at the end of the day we do have a market for the molasses and obviously for the sugar. And we found a very keen partner in investing in these rum. We're doing some work with them at the cane breeding station and at our research unit in terms of the cane trials that we're doing. So it is about creating a level of connection across the industry, value added. And then obviously that in itself for us, we believe will lead to some sustainability and profitability if we get into renewable energy.
Yes, Orlando. Sorry, yeah. So yeah, we want to support the local farming community, and it's not just about sugarcane. There's so many other areas that we are investigating to assist that idea of from the farm to the table. We want to be integrated and continually integrated into the entire network of the farming community within Barbados. So that's just to support what Orlando would have said. I, however, wanted to add in a bit more about the challenges in the molasses procurement. And I know Martha especially would be quite aware, it's becoming a major challenge to continually get the right quality of molasses from the various markets that we would have sourced from before. It's no longer just about price and quality. There's a whole issue of logistics, the number of vessels that can maneuver around the Caribbean is decreasing. The cost of logistics is going up. And climate change is a major issue for molasses sourcing, because no longer can we say, well, our part of the world is isolated or even insulated from any other issues going on around the world. It could be a typhoon in Asia that's going to impact on the ability of all of the rum producers to procure molasses. I've been involved in it for close to 10 years now, and in the early stages, that was not an issue. There was always molasses. You could always turn away a supplier and turn to someone else. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, you have to be so careful. You may run yourself to a position where you have no molasses to actually make rum. So it's a really strange dynamic in the molasses procurement industry right now. Miguel, I'm not sure. I know you're not necessarily on that side, but maybe you do hear of the issues going on in the marketplace, because it's going to be a situation where mills may be forced to be pushing more to increase yields, and I'm hoping that doesn't translate into, decrease in the focus on labor practices just to be able to get more product out onto the market, and that's what I think we have to be very careful of.
As Don has said, climate change, and it's what is interesting is that it's, like you said, it's climate change. It's worldwide climate change. So we're experiencing a phenomenon this year whereby hurricanes of last year, coupled with hurricanes at the end of the year, coupled with drought at the beginning of the year in different regions has significantly impacted the ability to source molasses across the world, which has really put a challenge out there for all of us. It really has put a challenge out there for all of us.
Having that challenge also, the need for that challenge to be acknowledged, I think is the missing link, having it acknowledged by consumers so that we as consumers and purveyors and people on sales, that we accept that there's a cost for climate change, an actual physical cost, that we have to raise the price of things. And we can't look at sugar as a cheap product or look at rum as a cheap product, that everything has to cost more if this is the world we're going to continue to live in. Miguel, did you have I don't know a ton about how climate change specifically affects sugar trade. Do you have a couple of things to say about that, or that we could share with the community?
Sure. I think one of the main risks in the sugarcane sector is climate change is water scarcity. Sugarcane production requires, particularly in the agricultural part of the operation, requires a lot of water, and if there is a water scarcity and you don't want to compete with the community, because all the mills have a community around, and this is one of the main risks. Also, we all know that another risk globally is poverty, and the thing is how the sector improve the practice to mitigate those risks. As an organization, we are encouraging our members to improve their irrigation system as a mitigation to climate risk. Also, to improve or to develop projects to support the community. In many countries, the sugarcane sector is filling the gaps in terms of access to water and all the improvement of the households of the communities. And we were talking about financial and market, and I think that's another way to mitigate all this risk. We launched the new strategy in last June, and one important element that we are working, this is new, but we want to improve, or we want to support the sector with the market development activities. We have developed a platform, it's called the Credit Trade Platform, where certified members can sell their credits and buyers can buy the credit. So it's like a kind of a market where offer and demand fills their needs. And this is something we offer to members to mitigate the risk of the market. We are also encouraging the traders and the buyers, the members we work with to commit with the farmers and mills. And you have seen in our newsletter, we release news about brands. For instance, this is public, brands purchasing credit from farmers. And this is something that we want to support to mitigate, the risk, not only due to the climate change, but in general, the pandemic is also another challenge that we are experiencing. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we developed a protocol to continue with the remote audit. And then I think that's the protocol you use for the certification within this rum, because it's a hybrid remote and in-present certification audit. And this is another way that we think we are helping the sector to mitigate. And this will continue. Coming back to the molasses sector, we are also in conversation with our members so they can buy from certified members. And this is something that we do, connecting, as I said before, demand with offering and vice versa.
Yeah, being the not the go-between, but helping create that community amongst your industry on the other side, right behind the scenes, with the purveyors of rum that are purchasing molasses and the people that are producing molasses, and having that network building amongst yourselves is going to be invaluable in the future. We're going to wrap things up. I know it feels like we're barely scratching the surface, which is true. This is a huge topic and they only give us an hour So very quickly, if anyone wanted to share their like a quick goal for their organization, for the NRJ and for the BNC, and for Don, anyone want to throw in like a thing they're working towards, or like a little mini goal for the next couple of years?
So I know we've been focusing, we've spoken a lot about molasses, and there's aspects of sustainability around molasses. But just looking at, yes, molasses is critical, but I think one thing we need to focus on, which is going to impact us all, molasses included, is our sources of water. We're severely challenged, becoming more challenged every year with regards to water. And we've spent a lot of time looking at social sustainability. I think the next thing on the agenda for us, we need to start looking at water sustainability. I think that's a big thing for us. The next big thing, once we've really fine-tuned our social sustainability issues and around molasses, I think the next thing we need to look at, for me really, I think, is water sustainability. That for me is the big unanswered question, is how do we deal with that?
Yeah. I think for us, the opportunities we are exploring coming out of the challenge we see is marrying renewable energy and the agriculture sector, specifically for us, to drive some level of profitability and sustainability. And I think at the same time, using R&D and working with people like West Indies Rum and the other distilleries, and finding that niche space around molasses, the quality of the molasses that we produce, and obviously being part of the overall story, given the long history of Barbados rum, and obviously the history of sugarcane in Barbados. It is to keep telling our story, but obviously create some level of sustainability with our sugarcane and marrying that with renewable energy.
Okay, well, for West Indies rum, I'll go really far out to 2030. That's our date for becoming carbon neutral. Now, clearly, that's an easy thing to say. It's how to achieve it, the steps that we have to take along the way. So it's a journey we have started, and there are a number of activities that we fin. And for me, the short term, this next period is about 2 years. So we are looking more at how we can utilize our waste and convert that more to energy and other uses. It's about expanding our footprint for our solar PV system. Those are the two main areas that are important to us. And we're also going to be upgrading certain parts of the distillery to be able to utilize energy far more efficiently than we are right now. So you can almost say it's 2021, there's 9 years to 2030. And we're going to be taking annual steps, biannual steps in there that we can report on and demonstrate this. And this is where we were 2 years ago. This is where we are now. And we can show the trajectory through to becoming carbon neutral. So that's the main focus here at the distillery. I agree 100% with Martha. I mean, water is a major challenge across the world. Barbados is a water scarce country. And it's a discussion all the stakeholders will have to engage on, because it's not just the distilleries, it's just the community on the whole. People right now in Barbados in some areas are very challenged to receive enough water for their daily needs. So wherever we can assist that as a distillery or as a corporate entity, that's going to be a key role we have to play. And I wish you well, Martha, with that. And anything that you achieve, be willing to share, and we'll do the same. I think that's the only way we're going to get there together, is if we share our experiences, and share our knowledge and our expertise.
I agree.
And from Bonsucro, as I mentioned before, we launched the new strategy. I think we need 2 hours to talk about the strategy, but this is an invitation. Think of Bonsucro as a tool, as a system to improve your operation and to the risk your sugarcane production and the end product could be sugar, molasses, ethanol. But there is something that I want to mention quickly about the strategy. We are developing something that is called the Bonsucro Impact Fund. This will be ready in the coming month. This will be a fund where members and non-members can apply for funding, and it's presenting a project where you can tell us, what is it what you want to improve, whether it's social, environmental, agricultural practices. And throughout this funding system, you can get access to fund to implement this project. So in summary, we are trying to create more benefits to incentivize the sustainability of the sugarcane sector, because I am convinced that the only way not the only way, but one way to support this sector is market development and resource and mobilizing resource to the production side.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I just want to thank everybody. We have to wrap up. I want to thank everyone for sharing your expertise with this community. I hope that it will encourage everyone to experience rum and even sugar with a little bit more intentionality and respect and understanding, and hopefully love. It's been great having you all here, and I know that there's so much more we can learn from you all, and to grow together and keep having these conversations and developing and growing into a more sustainable, ethical business model in the future. I want to thank Tales of the Cocktail for allowing a free version of the platform and online so everyone can see it this fall. That's been pretty great to have the opportunity to show off this topic, which I think is really, really important for anyone in the on-trade business, and we don't get to see it very often. So I thank all of you so much. I hope to see everyone again in Barbados and Jamaica. I hope that everyone is going to be drinking some really delicious rums from those countries, but maybe beyond, and staying healthy and safe.